Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast. For today, we're going over UFC 274. First things first, a quick recap of last week. Not the greatest week, won 3 of 5 on picks. That Andre Fili loss killed us. It blew up basically all of my parlays. I knew it was a little risky, but he's never really been knocked out before, so I figured it was a safer bet, but it is what it is. That's the way this game goes. At least we got all the totals right, so yeah, it is what it is what it is. But at the end, we also had Johan, which I was very, very confident in, but for whatever reason, he deaded a man. He literally knocked him down. Gabe Green's eyes were rolling behind his back of his head, and he couldn't get the job done somehow. So, hey, all the credit in the world to Gabe, but we're looking for a better read here. Again, this is UFC 274. It's a pay-per-view, so these people are a little more established. We've seen them a lot more. We know their ins and outs, so hopefully that makes for a better night here. Again, there's a 15-fight offering here. I don't want to waste any time here getting right into it. Again, make sure all the official picks are over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on TikTok. And we do have the link in the description. So make sure you give this video a like, give everything a follow. But again, 15 fights. We're going to hop right into this here with the first fight of the night. We have Fern Garcia at minus 155 going up against Journey Newsome at plus 135. Over under set at 2.5, over 2.5 minus 160, under 2.5 plus 130. Let's go ahead and start with Mr. Garcia here. He is coming off of a knockout win on the Contender Series over Joshua Weems. That is an anomaly. He has never had a knockout in his career prior to that. Again, you have these guys that come out and they just go for broke in the Contender Series, because you basically have to get a finish in order to get a contract. So sometimes you see some of these universally decision guys come in and try to get a finish. Don't fall for it. That's not his normal self. And Joshua, he kind of was a little bit of a can crusher. And it's not as if Garcia has fought the stiffest competition. I mean, people at 9-6 and 3-1 and 3. I mean, he's a split decision win over someone that's 3-4. So 1-5, 6-10, 12-30. Oh man. Yeah, he's a can crusher too. So I am not falling for this guy. His striking is okay. It's predominantly boxing based, and he seems pretty durable. He's never been finished. He has a few rear naked choke finishes on there, so he at least is competent on the ground. But again, I don't really trust someone with the Contender Series fade here. Coming in off an anomaly win from the Contender Series, he only fights cans on the regional scene. Not that Journey Newsome is much better, in all honesty. I do question his durability to an extent. I think it's a little overblown here with him having, 2 losses and 1 no contest. That no contest was because of weed. So, I mean, in all honesty, that's not a performance enhancer. If anything, it'll make you slower. So the fact that he went out and knocked out Domingo Pilarte like that is pretty impressive, even though it does not officially count as a win. And his 2 losses, I mean, he lost to Ricardo Ramos. He's a veteran of the game, fought for the title previously. That's a tough debut fight. And his other losses to a little man named Randy Costa, that no one knew how much of a killer that dude was, came in and got a 1-minute knockout, as Randy Costa seems to do. So all in all, he has okay striking. I'm pretty sure he has a professional boxing pedigree. His jiu-jitsu is there. His wrestling's whatever. He's pretty much a generalist here. He's 33 years old, but he's fought the better competition. He has 0% takedown defense, but there's not a ton of takedowns that were shot. So that's kind of a weird stat to throw out there. So you can back him up a little bit. I think he might have a suspect chin. But again, Garcia is someone that comes in and generally does not finish you. He goes to decision in wins and losses. So at this juncture, I'm going to take the UFC vet here. He has 3 fights in the UFC fighting decent competition. Garcia is making a debut as a favorite from the Contender Series, only fighting cans. Give me Newsome. Not super confident in it, but it might end up being a play contingent on what they look like at the weigh-ins. That takes us to the next fight of the night. We have Lupita Godinez at minus 180 going up against Ariana Conolosi at plus 155. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 280. Under 2.5 plus 210. Let's go ahead and look at Lupi first. She's pretty good. She's also a little bit of a generalist. She has pretty good takedowns. she is okay wrestling. Her striking's okay. It's just a little lower volume. And her ground game, she showed is pretty good. Trying to use it against Luana. She almost had that fight finished in the first round before she ended up taking that L. She again did get that win over Silvana via armbar. I want to say it was. She made it look pretty easy. All in all, she has good cardio. The cons with her is the fact that you can back her up and she does muscle everything. I'm not a fan of that. Because one of these days she's going to run into someone who she can't just out muscle, and that's not going to work. I do like that she has good game plans. I really, really liked the game plan against Luma. It's a smaller girl. I'm just going to take her down and control her. That was smart. Even though she lost against Luana, she came in knowing that she had no ground game. So she was going to try to take Luana down. The only issue was she went for body lock takedowns. As someone that used to wrestle, I'll tell you that it's a lot easier to shoot like a double or a single leg against someone that much taller and bigger than you. If you're bigger than them, you can go for body locks and you can jack them up, and it's a lot easier to go upper body. So if they're shorter than you go upper body. If they're taller than you go for their legs. And she went upper body with someone twice her size. It did not work out, but the game plan was there. So speaking of people that are shorter than her, Loopy's not the tallest girl in the world, but Carlos is 5'1". She's a little tank, man. She is so strong, which does concern me about Loopy always trying to muscle things. But she loves that body lock. That's her favorite takedown. And I'll tell you what, that's going to be a lot easier to do against Ariana because she has a 25% takedown defense. That's very concerning. She has a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, so she shouldn't just get tapped out like Loopy did to other people. And their striking's okay. I'd actually probably give her the striking edge. It's very close. I'd say it's a wash. The jiu-jitsu, I'd say, is a wash, and I think Loopy has the wrestling advantage. The only thing is she does not take a step backwards. She always goes forward. She only has 2 losses on her record. One is to Angela Hill, and Angela Hill by cut stoppage. She was coming back in that fight, and she might have pulled out a decision. She might have finished Angela Hill. Who knows? But that was a very, very close fight. And then ultimately a cut stopped the fight. So that was an unfortunate L. And her only other L is to Amanda Ribas, and Amanda Ribas is knocking on the door on title contention, and that was her very first fight ever. So no bad losses whatsoever. She pressures a ton, which Loopy can get backed up. It's just going to come down to that wrestling. Is Carnelossi going to be able to keep it on the feet, pressure Loopy, and get a decision win, basically? Or is Loopy going to be able to take her down and hold her down? And just wrestle, put on her singlet and wrestle her way to a victory. I think Loopy should get the job done, but at plus 155 for Carnelossi, I think she's the value play there. So the pick is going to be Loopy, but my bet would probably just be a dog shot on Ariana. And I do like Newsom a little, who is also a dog the first fight. So if he wins, I might just take those winnings and put it into Carnelossi and see if we can go 2 for 2 to start the night. Next fight of the night is a pretty interesting one, probably one where I won't take the dog shot. We have Clayton Rodriguez at minus 290 going up against CJ Vergara at plus 230. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 125. Under 2.5 minus 105. Let's start with CJ, because CJ is a kid that I liked. I circled and said I want to bet his next fight. He's a pretty good striker. He has really good cardio. He will have a 2.5-inch reach advantage here. He throws a ton of volume at you. Overall grappling, and we're not 100% certain. I mostly just see him on the feet. I know Odie Osborne took him down a little bit, and he wasn't able to control him or anything. So, I mean, that's a thing. He throws a ton of volume, but you can also clip him a lot. Don't get me wrong. It's not if he's going out there and getting knocked out or anything like that. He's actually never been knocked out. He's been tapped out again. So that grappling is up in the air. But his losses, you know about good losses. Jonathan Martinez now fights at 135, and that was a split. So that's pretty decent there. Odie Osborne is no slouch. I don't know who Devin is, but that could have also been an anomaly, a 50-second rear naked choke. Something weird happened in that fight. I wasn't able to see it. So all in all, not bad losses, reach advantage, good striking. Might have the better striking. It's pretty close there, in all honesty. I like CJ a lot. My only issue is that he's running into a buzzsaw in Clayton. This kid is a prodigy. This kid is coming out of the Team Nogueira camp, and everyone absolutely is enamored with this kid. He has great jiu-jitsu, obviously, coming out of Nogueira camp. He's only 26, so he's improving each and every fight. He also has very good volume and very good striking. His wrestling, it looked interesting. His takedown defense, you can take this guy down. But then he had decent offensive wrestling. So his takedown defense is sketchy, but his offensive wrestling was okay. Otherwise, he is someone else that's coming from the Contender series. So my initial thought was to fade as always, but he's good, man. You can't fade these prodigies. These guys like Ronnie Lawrence coming out of the Contender series. These guys like Jack Della coming out of the Contender series. Some of them just have a different aura about them, and you can tell they're good and they're going to stay good. This kid kind of has that aura. He has the appropriate camp here with Team Nogueira. So I loved CJ. I pray to God they give him another shot, but the pick is going to be Cledson, and the bet is going to probably be Cledson. I don't like him at minus 290 almost. I see him over minus 300 in some books. I'm not a fan of that, the price, but the kid's good. All right. Next fight of the night is another sketchy one here. We have Tracy Cortez as a minus 165 favorite going up against Melissa Gatto at plus 145. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is minus 220. Under 2.5 at plus 170. Let's start with Melissa Gatto because I can't get this girl right. She's not good, but I do have to admit that she is improving. Her jiu-jitsu is top notch. It's very, very good. She's tapped out the likes of Carol Rosa. That's a really good submission win. She has an active guard. She just throws stuff up there. It's very, very active. Her striking leaves a little to be desired, but you see it improving, and she throws some heat. She does throw kind of hard, in all honesty. You see that she took Sarge out with a body kick. Victoria Leonardo, she broke her arm, but Victoria didn't look too bad in that fight. Sarge dominated the first round before doing classic Sarge and gassing out. Carol Rosa was whooping her ass. It's very odd. She has a draw in here that I watched, and she got absolutely killed, and they gave her a draw somehow. I have absolutely no idea how that fight was a draw. Not the slightest clue. That was not a draw. She was able to be controlled on the ground and got her ass whooped. So her takedown defense, it does look a little sketchy. Not enough sample size in the UFC, but it does look a touch sketchy. And it's usually how it is when you're good on the ground. You just feel comfortable down there. So you want to fight it, but you're not like fighting with your whole might to keep it on the feet. And she shouldn't, because her striking is still kind of improving. But again, I thought she was overrated coming into the UFC. You look at who they were trying to match her up against. They're trying to match her up against Julia Avila and people like that. I was like, oh my God, she's gonna die. I don't know why they wanted to give her someone that good right away, but yeah, man, she's impressing me with just how much she's getting better. I don't know if I'm gonna pull the trigger here. I do like the plus 145, but Tracy Cortez kind of has that fight style to that aforementioned fight where Melissa got taken down and controlled. That's what Tracy kind of wants to do to you. She has pretty good wrestling. She's at fight ready, which I absolutely love. You know, that's my camp. She does slow down a little bit, and she is a little sketchy on the scale. So make sure you take a peek at that, because Gatto has good cardio. I can't say the same for Cortez. Otherwise, her striking's kind of okay. It could be better as well. I think it's kind of a wash on the feet, in all honesty. Her jiu-jitsu is okay. So you're really looking at a wrestler being able to stay on top against a jiu-jitsu practitioner trying to catch her off her back. If you give me BJJ against wrestler, I will generally choose the wrestler. This is a 50-50 because they're both so young. God, I know Melissa's like 26 and Tracy's 28. They're both so green. I'll take the wrestler again here. It's not bad odds at minus 165. So the pick is going to be Tracy. I'd probably stay away from parlays. If you want to better straight up, it's not the worst at minus 165. But if you can avoid, this is definitely one I would, because this fight could go either way. But I'll roll the dice with Tracy. All right, next fight of the night shouldn't go either way. This should be a massacre. We have Andre Fialo at minus 310 going up against Cameron Van Camp at plus 240. This fight was added this week, so we do not have an over-under yet. But I'll tell you, whatever it is, I'd probably bet the under, because let's start with Andre Fialo here. He's taking this fight on short notice, but he wants that. He said he wants to stay as active as possible. He has pretty good striking. He can slow down later on in fights, but he's at Sanford MMA, and he's another one of these guys you see constantly improving. He's a little hittable, which isn't the greatest, but he pressures you hard. He goes forward. His takedown defense isn't terrible. It's there. And his jiu-jitsu, I don't really see a lot of. So it's kind of a question mark here. So that's a little bit of a concern. But he's at Sanford. They'll have him ready. And the striking advantage, this dude hits hard. He hits very, very hard. And he's just, he's kind of growing on me. At first, I thought he was a douche, in all honesty, and I just kind of was hoping for him to lose. But he was also fighting Michel Pereira, who's one of my favorite fighters. So I was a little biased there. But I backed him against Miguel Bieza. I was like, you know what? Miguel is a suspect, and Fialo goes forward, and he hits hard, and he's going to clip him. And sure enough, 4 minutes into the round, he clipped him, and he came through. And I gained a little respect for Fialo. He had the right game plan, executed, love it. Van Camp on the other end is making his UFC debut. He sucks. He is the definition of a can crusher. Most of his wins are by submission. So again, it's very interesting to see how Fialo's ground game is. That'll be interesting to see if it hits the ground. But Van Camp's wrestling is just okay. It's not the greatest in the world. I don't know. He's really, really cocky. After he wins, he always like stares over his opponent. It's really weird. And even like some of the guys, you look at their records and you see like an 8-2 and a 6-0, but believe me, these are really, really, really low level. I watched a podcast where one of the podcasters was a promoter where Van Camp fought and said he used to hand pick opponents. So yeah, he's not going to hand pick Andre. He does not have any striking, so that's not good for him. So it's going to be a matter of if he can take him down and tap out Andre. We don't know how Andre's ground game is, but we know he's at a good camp, so I'll trust that he can be defensively sound. And on the feet, he's going to kill Cameron. Cameron has nothing on the feet. So the pick is going to be Andre. The bet is going to be Andre. Next fight of the night, we're looking at back-to-back locks. On the nights here, we have Blagoy Ivanov at -145. Good pricing. Going up against Marcus Rogerio de Lima plus 125, over under set at 2.5, over 2.5 -110, under 2.5 -120. That doesn't sound right. It should probably be 1.5 because of Marcos Rogerio de Lima. I said no matter what, I'm fading this guy because he might be one of the worst heavyweights in the division. And sure enough, we have him here at a fadeable fight. He has a ton of power. The dude can crack hard. Like, the dude is very, very, very good at hitting you in the face and putting you out. His wrestling, sneaky good. It's not the worst in the world. At light heavyweight, the dude's not a heavyweight. He just decided he's done cutting weight. And this heavyweight version is not very good. I mean, yes, he scored a ton of takedowns against Maurice Green, but in all honesty, I can take down Maurice Green. Not really a big accomplishment. And he held him down there. And he ended up throwing like 20 total strikes the entire fight for 15 minutes. How do you only throw 20 strikes? Like, he does not have any semblance of cardio whatsoever. So he will have a 2-inch reach advantage, which is nice for him. But in all honesty, he has a ton of power. No cardio. His wrestling only works against the worst of the worst. Ivanov is a former Sambo champion. He beat Fedor in Sambo, so he's not going to be able to take Blagoy down. So at this juncture, he has to go out there and try to knock Blagoy out. And I'll tell you what, Blagoy has never been knocked out. I know this is Andre Fili all over again, but you know what? The odds of that happening back-to-back weeks, I'm not having it. And because, you know what, Blagoy is a little different than Andre, because Blagoy, I don't think you can physically hurt this man. This is a man that's been stabbed in the heart at a nightclub, was in a coma for a month and came out of it and became a fighter. This dude, I'm pretty sure, has been shot before. This dude is crazy enough to go toe-to-toe with Derek Lewis in the pocket and just exchange and never get knocked out. He did the same with Augusto Sakai and never get knocked out. He did the same against Junior Dos Santos and did not get knocked out. He did the same against Tai Tuivasa, one of the other power punchers in the division, did not get knocked out. He stands with you. He goes blow for blow, and the man has had 18 and 4. He's had 22 professional bouts and has never been knocked out. against not just random people, literally the king of knockouts. The most knockouts in UFC history, was not able to knock him out. So I don't think an old 205 pounder is going to be able to. And if he can't take him down and he has no cardio, don't get me wrong, Blagoy's cardio is not good, but he slows a lot. Lima gasses after one round, like we'll need an inhaler. So I think this is an easy money, lock it up pick. And at minus 145, he might be on all of my parlays. So the pick is going to be Blagoy. The bet 100% is going to be Blagoy. And then that takes us into, God, this is perfect. You have two locks going straight into one of the best fighters in MMA today. One of my favorite fighters of all time, Raw Dog, Brandon Royval at minus 255, going up against Matt Danger Schnell at plus 205, over under set at 2.5, over 2.5 plus 105, under 2.5 minus 135. And yes, it's a flyweight fight, and the under is the one that's juiced. And it's because of Raw Dog, baby. He's so fucking good everywhere. This dude is phenomenal. BJJ, his striking's okay. It's unorthodox. In all honesty, it's not good, but it's very unusual, kind of like Tony Ferguson-esque, where you just don't know what you're getting hit with. Randoms. He's a guy that came out and basically knocked out Kai Kara-France with a spinning back elbow. He rocked him and then go ahead and slapped up. I believe it was a guillotine or a rear naked choke, one of the two. Guillotine, yep. Yeah, but it was a nice club and sub there, and that's a good win. He also came out and beat Rogerio Bontorin in the last fight, and Bontorin is the last man to defeat Matt Danger Schnell. So that says something there. All in all, Royval has ungodly cardio. The dude does not get tired whatsoever. And his losses, when you really look at it, his UFC losses are to Alexander Pantoja, who's about to fight for a title, basically, once he heals up, and Brandon Moreno, the former champ. And in all honesty, he started to pick it up against Brandon Moreno. He just unfortunately had his shoulder pop out, and they had to stop the fight there. And Pantoja, he held his own. Yes, he got choked out in the second, but he was fine. It's not like he went out there and got dominated. They both had their moment. So, yeah, all in all, the kid's good. He's fucking good. He's only 28. I want to say he's 29 years old, so he's still improving too. He's had a good camp at Factory Muay Thai. All in all, no negatives. I know he has some, but he's just a really, really good fighter. I can say the same about Matt Schnell. He's good. He's a pretty good striker. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. His cardio also checks out. So these two are going to throw as much as they can. But here's the difference. Royval has never fought in front of a crowd in the UFC. All 4 of his fights have been in the Apex. Royval literally cries over not having fight of the night. So he's going to bring a furious pace being in front of a crowd. Let's see if Matt Schnell can keep up with it. And especially if they want to go toe-to-toe like that, Matt Schnell has a shaky chin. That thing is suspect. When you look at his record here, he has a decision loss to Bontorin, which is good. But he has a knockout loss to Pantoja, knockout loss to Hector Sandoval, knockout loss to Rob Font. The dude, if you clip him, he's going out. He's been tapped out before. Basically, in 4 of his 6 losses, he's been finished, and 3 of them were knockouts. So you clip this guy, he's going down. And if Royval can do it to Kai Kara-France, you best believe he can do it to Matt Danger Schnell. I think Royval has the cardio, jiu-jitsu, and striking advantage, power advantage at least. So give me Royval. I can't bet him. That's my boy. I refuse to bet my favorite fighters unless I put them all in a parlay. In all honesty, like a top 5 list, I love Brandon Royval. For some odd reason, I love Norma Dumont, and I love Michael Chandler. So I might make a parlay with all 3, a little biased parlay. But Royval's he's hard to trust in a parlay because he's so crazy. He does not fight to win. He fights to entertain, and that's a little sketchy. But goddamn, is it fun to watch? And he's so good that he can pull it off. So the pick is Royval. The bet is Royval. Speaking of some of my favorite fighters, we have Norma Dumont as a minus 235 favorite, going up against Macy Chiasson at plus 190. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is minus 245. Under 2.5 is plus 185. Let's start with my girl Norma. I think one of the reasons I like her is just because she's a money train for me. I bet her as a dog against Aspen Ladd. I don't know how she was a dog, but she got me money that night. I bet her as a dog against Felicia Spencer. I don't know how she was a dog, but she got me money that night. She's awesome. She just keeps winning me dog money. So it's weird that she's a favorite here and such a big favorite. Her striking's okay. She's pretty fast hands. It's predominantly boxing, but she's kind of hard to hit. She's really crisp on the feet. She is supposedly a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. I haven't seen it, but I do know when she fought Megan Anderson, she did attempt to take her down, and that's where she wanted to fight. So I'm certain she's very comfortable on the ground. Her wrestling didn't look too great. She wasn't able to get it down there, offensively at least, but defensively, she's 100% takedown defense. So that's a good stat considering she fought Felicia Spencer and Aspen Ladd. I don't think Felicia shot a takedown, so that was a little sketchy, but Aspen sure as hell did, and she wasn't able to get her down. So she's pretty good takedown defense. Her offense, we'll see. And she only has one loss, and it was to Megan Anderson. It was by knockout, but she did take that fight on short notice. That was only her 5th ever professional fight. And Megan Anderson's a big girl, and that's my concern because Macy kind of has a similar body type. This long, lanky, bony girl. She's not as thick as Megan Anderson is, but still kind of the same body type. She's not as good as Megan Anderson. I mean, she has a 5-inch reach advantage, which definitely goes in her favor. Her striking's okay, but she doesn't really fight long. She doesn't use that reach advantage. She wants to fight in the pocket, even though she has a reach advantage. It doesn't make any type of sense. She has a 60% takedown defense, so it'll be interesting to see if Norma's able to get her down. And when she's going forward, she just chases you, and Norma likes to back up and hit you with a jab and pepper you. So it's just going to be that reach. Is she going to be able to do that game plan, or is she going to try to take her down? I don't know what Norma's going to try to do. Both things that work against Macy and Norma's pretty good at, but that reach advantage is pretty big here. So that's a little concerning. And it is what it is. The pick is going to be Norma. Not going to go against her. The bet, again, I try to stay away from them, but I might make that 3-fighter parlay in all honesty. All right. Then next fight of the night, we have basically a straight pick 'em now. We have Francisco Trinaldo at -125, Danny Roberts at -105. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is -185. Under 2.5 +150. I was able to get Danny Roberts as a +100 dog earlier, and I liked it. In all honesty, he has pretty good striking. He will have a 4-inch reach advantage here. He is a true welterweight. Francisco is older and coming up to welterweight from lightweight. He has a 56% takedown defense. Not a fan of that. But his jiu-jitsu is okay. His cardio is okay. All in all, he's just an okay fighter. He's kind of bland, kind of like a. In all honesty, all of the black British dudes fight the same. Leon Edwards, Jay Herbert, Danny Roberts, they're all the same thing. They're all almost in the same weight class. They just fight long behind a jab and are fine everywhere. I have no problems with Danny Roberts. His chin, I mean, his fight IQ is a little concerning. He does get knocked out quite a bit. Mike Perry knocked him out. Talib knocked him out. Michel Pereira knocked him out. Might be a little chinny, but all in all, he's a pretty decent fighter. I like him as a dog here. Francisco, he's just old. He's really old at this point. How old is he? He's like 43, I want to say. His striking's okay. He still carries that old man power. But again, like I said, he's a lightweight. His jiu-jitsu is pretty solid. And his cardio somehow still checks out at 43. But all in all, he's just kind of a old generalist now in the wrong weight class. He's going to be able to beat lower competition. And Danny Roberts is right on that fringe of where Trinaldo's going to beat, like the Dwight Grants of the world and the John Medeski's. Like, he'll beat them. The Jay Herberts. Go figure. But Jay Herbert was whooping his ass and then got clipped. Danny Roberts fights the exact same way. He's also chinny, but if he doesn't get clipped, he should take this W. So the pick, and that was just a year ago, or 2 years ago. So the pick is going to be Danny. The bet would end up being Danny. I don't like it as much as a pick 'em, but fast and lean away, that's where I would go. All right. Next fight of the night is a banger. We have Randy Rudeboy Brown at -105 going up against Chaos Williams at -115. Over under set at 2.5. over 2.5 plus 100, under 2.5 minus 130. Let's go ahead and start with Randy Rudeboy Brown, baby. He's someone that's impressing me. He's getting better and better every fight. He's pretty good striking. It's really crisp now. He has good Brazilian jiu-jitsu. We saw that one arm rear naked choke against Cowboy. He has okay cardio. He fights long. He's one of these guys that actually uses his length, so it's a breath of fresh air to see. His chin, people say he's chinny. I mean, getting knocked out by Vicente, I understand. Getting knocked out by Nico Price, I understand. I mean, those are his losses. And then Mike Graves is very good, just not in the UFC because of all of his issues. And Bilal Muhammad is like 2 fights away from fighting for a title. So not bad losses whatsoever. His wins are just okay. Brian Barberina, Warley Alves, Alex Oliveira, Jared Gooden. They're all middle tier. So I would say he gets a step up here. But I don't know if Chaos is. I think Chaos might be the same little middle tier where he's at. This honestly might be a fight to get ranked. Like whoever wins might end up being the number 15 ranked guy at welterweight. But all in all, we watched Randy Brown grow up in the UFC. He came in as this young kid, and you see him getting better and better. He's kind of in his element, kind of like a Jalen Turner. Is very, very reminiscent of him. Chaos Williams came in with the death touch. He came in, he has pretty good striking, a ton of power. It's weird because initially he has a lot of decisions on here. But then he came into the UFC and he just deaded Alex Moreno, and then he came in and he deaded Abdulrazak Al-Hassan. Michel Pereira was able to survive. Matt Summelsberger was able to survive. Miguel Bieza was not able to survive. He took him out. But we know Miguel has a questionable chin. So, all in all, the guy he blitzes a lot of in and out. He blitzes with like a 5, 6, 7 punch combo, and then he stares at you for a second, and then he blitzes again. That's how he fights, and it's interesting how judges approach that. It's kind of weird. 50% takedown defense. I know a lot of people haven't shot takedowns on him, but Michel Pereira is not the greatest wrestler, and he was able to take him down multiple times. He timed it right. In the middle of that blitz, he just timed it. So that is something you'll have to watch out for because Randy's pretty good on the ground. I think on the feet, you're looking at someone who blitzes against someone who likes to fight long. So Chaos is pretty durable. If Randy wins, it's probably by decision. If Chaos wins, it's probably by knockout. But Randy could also try to take him down because Randy's very good on the ground. So Randy has more advantages and he has the better odds here. So the pick is going to be Randy. And again, I already have a bet on him. He's minus 105 now. I got him at about plus 110. So the line is swinging into his favor. So make sure you bet it while you can. Speaking of Cowboys, we're talking about Cowboy Oliveira. Now we're talking about Donald Cerrone. Cowboy coming in the first fight on the main card. Again, we're in the main card, so give this video a like. Make sure you give a follow over on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. All the support is much appreciated. But we have Cowboy at minus 165. That sounds weird. Going up against Joe Lozon at plus 145. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 plus 135. Under 2.5 minus 165. Let's just start with the legend and Cowboy. He's pretty good striking. His wrestling's underrated. He has decent cardio. He's sneaky good on the ground. All in all, he's just an overall generalist. He's good everywhere. And the most dangerous guys are the ones that can knock you out on the feet and tap you out on the ground because you have nowhere to go. There's no middle ground. Don't get me wrong, Joe's good on the ground too, but Cowboy has length here. He will have a reach advantage. He's definitely the more active fighter, and he took a break. Finally, this dude was fighting 5-6 times a year. He finally took a year off, and I think that's going to benefit him. Yes, he's 39 years old. But the good thing for him is that he's fighting Joe Lozon. The UFC did this on purpose. Joe Lozon is no spring chicken himself. He is 37 years old. And Dana White went out and said, this is a loser leaves. This is a walking papers fight. Whoever loses will get cut due to old age, literally. Joe, very low volume, very hittable. He moves forward a ton. His cardio he slows down here. Great jiu-jitsu. So I don't know if Cowboy's going to be able to tap him out. He has sneaky power, man. He doesn't look big at all, but he can put your lights out. He has a lot of knockout wins, but he has some knockout losses. Like he got knocked out by Chris Grutzmacher, got knocked out by Clay Guida. Those aren't good looks. But at the end of the day, we haven't seen him in 3 years. We haven't seen him against that win against GSP or JSP. So he has power. He can dish it out, but he can't really take it. The issue here is that Joe starts like a bat out of hell. He is one of the best first round fighters on the roster. He comes out and tries to start everyone round one because he knows his gas tank is bad. Cowboy is notoriously a slow starter, and he generally loses all of his first rounds and then comes back and win all of his fights, kind of like a Cheeto Vera. So that's not looking good for Cowboy. However, I just don't know if Joe has the goods anymore, and we haven't seen him in 3 years. Uh, I think I have to go with the guy that's fought the better competition in these last few years too. Like Joe's last one was JSP, and then Chris and Clay aren't the best fighters. Meanwhile, Donald's fighting Alex Moreno and Nico Price. Those are tougher fights. So the pick is going to be Donald. The bet is going to be Donald, but it's one I'd probably stay away from. All right. Next fight of the night is also one I don't really want to bet. I feel like I'm forced to, but I don't want to. We have Oliveira St. Preux OSP at minus 250 going up against Mauricio Shogun Hua at plus 200. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 is minus 155. Over 1.5 minus 155, under 1.5 plus 125. Let's start with OSP. Not a lot to write home about. He goes up to heavyweight. He comes back down to light heavyweight his last few fights. Heavyweight is not for him. He said it himself in the media day. Losing to Tanner Boser by knockout is not a good look. Tanner Boser does not knock out anyone. But then he came back down to light heavyweight and got knocked up by Jamal Hill. Ben Rothwell's not the greatest loss at heavyweight. That shouldn't have been a split. All in all, he's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage here. He's pretty low volume. He's pretty hittable, and mostly because he's very low volume, he does take a lot of pictures. He throws with a lot of heat, but it's very, very slow. It's like slow motion, and you can back him up. He does not like to get hit. If you touch him, he backs up immediately. So I know Shogun generally is like a little bit of a berserker and goes forward on you, but he hasn't really been fighting that way, mostly because he's like a grandpa. This dude, we talked about Joe Lozon and Donald Cerrone. This dude's 40 years old. I remember watching him when I was in middle school. So, I mean, his striking's okay. He only has 47% takedown defense, so I don't think that's going to matter here. He does like to go forward, and again, OSP likes to go backwards. But Shogun's a little chinny in his late ages. I mean, getting knocked out by Paul Craig is not a good look, and he tapped out the strikes. He got dropped multiple times by 40-year-old Nogueira. God, just not good looks here. Round one against Anthony Smith. All of his losses are coming by knockout, and even the loss before that was to OSP. I keep forgetting that this is a rematch, and OSP knocked him out in 30 seconds. God, loss before that was a knockout. God, he gets finished a ton. Oh, man. I don't want to bet OSP, but I don't think I have a choice. The pick is OSP. The bet, unfortunately, is OSP because you have to fade Shogun's chin, unfortunately. All right, and then that takes us to the last piece of that favorite fighter parlay. We have at the top, Michael Chandler minus 410. Hate that line. Going up against Tony Ferguson at plus 310. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 minus 155. Under 1.5 at plus 125. Let's start with my boy Michael. This dude is a definition of excitement. Like he said, he's here for a good time, not a long time, because he's 36 years old. He came to the UFC when he was 34. He knew he had one good run and he was going to try to make the best of it. And he's sure as hell doing that, fighting nothing but the best. Knocking out Dan Hooker in the first round is not an easy feat. He then fought Charles Oliveira, and he beat the shit out of Charles Oliveira round one, and then got clipped and finished in round two quickly, unfortunately. And then we all know about the Justin Gaethje war. They put on what it was deemed fight of the year, and justifiably so. That was one of the most fun fights I've ever seen. Chandler has good striking, a shit ton of power, great Division I wrestling, sneaky good jiu-jitsu, and he has no neck, so he's tough to tap out. He pressures like a motherfucker. The problem is he's a little chinny, and you can slow down. Mostly in 5-round fights is where you see him really tired and with a really heavy wrestling approach. This new just swing with power, Chandler doesn't get as tired. But that chin is he's suspect. That chin, if you crack him right, he's another one where he can dish it out, but can't always take it. He took all the Justin shots, which is impressive, but let's not act like he didn't do the stinky leg a few times. So I love Chandler. I think he's super exciting. I mean, kind of the same for Tony. I've never been a Tony fan, in all honesty. He has a big following. I've just never been a part of it. He has pretty good striking. It's very unorthodox, kind of like Royval, like I said. Really high volume, 65% takedown defense. So he's not easy to take down, but it's not like for someone that wrestled in college, you wouldn't expect that. 65%. Durable as shit. He's only been knocked out once, and that was just a mercy stoppage in the fight against Justin Gaetchje. Good jiu-jitsu. You can back him up a little. I mean, Chandler loves to go forward, so that'll be interesting to see. But Tony has pretty good cardio. It's very, very good in all honesty. So I'd give the cardio edge to Tony, but the striking is kind of a wash. The wrestling, definitely Chandler. The jiu-jitsu, kind of a wash. So I actually give Chandler most of the advantages here. Especially because he can also go to that wrestling heavy approach. If Chandler wants to make a boring fight, I've seen him do it before. He has all the ability in the world to here. But again, he's 36. I don't think he wants to. I think he just wants to go out there and have fun. But if he starts to lose and in close fights, we did see him shoot a takedown against Gaetchje. So he might against Tony if he gets clipped enough. So the pick is going to be Chandler because he has a choice to win it easy. And if he tries the exciting route, he might still win that. So the pick is Chandler. The bet is Chandler, but I hate minus 410 because Chandler's fucking crazy right now. So he's not really to be trusted with money. He's just there to watch and have fun. Next fight of the night is one I feel really weird about. It's our first title fight. We have a rematch of Rose Namajunas at minus 195 going up against Carla Esparza at plus 165. Over under set at 4.5 as it should be. Over 4.5 minus 200, under 4.5 plus 160. Let's start with Carla because I think she should have gotten this title shot. She had to fight for it. The UFC did not want to give it to her. But eventually they had no choice because she is on a 5-fight winning streak. Would you like to see the people that she has fought? She beat Zhang Yanan, who is the number 4 ranked fighter. She beat Marina Rodriguez, who's the number 1 or 2 fighter. She beat Michelle Watterson, who's currently out. And she beat Alexa Grasso, who's like 2 fights away from fighting for the title. And Verna Jandarova, who is just my girl. I love Verna for no reason to. She's okay. But again, she fought the who's who. Everyone was ranked. Everyone's knocking on title contention inside of Verna. Yeah, man, those are good wins. All in all, and you look at her losses, Tatiana Suarez is the uncrowned champion in all honesty. Whenever she gets healthy, she's probably going to win it all. Claudia Gadelha is a former title challenger. Ronda Marcos, that split doesn't look that good now, but Joanna, some consider to be the GOAT. Jessica Aguilar does not fight at 115, I'll tell you that. So, and then an armbar way early at 2010. So, again, she's only in the UFC. She's only lost to former champs, challengers, and Ronda Marcos. But all in all, she's a really, really, really good wrestler. Probably one of the second best wrestler in the division. Her striking has come a long way. Don't get me wrong. It's still not good. It's still low volume, but it looks better. Yeah, that's her cardio is going to be interesting. She does slow down a little bit, but we haven't really seen her ever go 5 rounds. Even when they fought the first time, she choked out Rose, which is another thing. She didn't just beat Rose; she choked her out in the 3rd round. And in the other scheduled 5-round fight, you want to knock her out in the 2nd. So we haven't seen her go 5 rounds. That'll be interesting with someone that wrestles so much. But everyone talks about Rose's improvements. Dude, Carla's striking did get better. Rose has definitely improved more. She has a really good ground game. She'll have a 4-inch reach advantage here. She has a clear-cut striking advantage. Her striking has gotten phenomenal, and she has a little pop now out of nowhere. 50% takedown defense. I don't like that at all. I know Wei Li Zhang was able to take her down a plethora of times. Her cardio checks out, so we don't have to worry about that. But 50% takedown defense is what I keep coming back to. Man, can Carla hold? It's not a matter of if Carla can take her down, it's when. And when she does, can she hold her there? Their jiu-jitsu is kind of a wash. The wrestling, definitely Carla. The striking, definitely Rose. So we're looking at a 50-50 fight in all honesty, and Carla's already beaten her. That's the other thing. She has the mental edge of already knowing I've not just beaten, I finished this girl before. So I know it was a really long time ago. I know they're not the same fighters that they were. Everyone talks about how much Rose improved, but Carla has as well. So if you're going to give me plus 165 on the wrestler who already beat the striker, I'm going to have to bet Carla. It sucks. It doesn't feel right. I feel Rose. The pick is Rose. I think Rose wins the fight, but Carla's already done it, and she's almost plus 170. So give me Carla as a bet, baby. All right. And then the next fight of the night is the last fight of the night. We have Charles Oliveira, Chucky O at minus 165, going up against Justin Gaetchje at plus 145. Over under set at 1.5. Because of Charles. Over 1.5 minus 185, under 1.5 plus 150. Let's start with Gaetchje. We'll go Charles last out of respect. Gaetchje, great wrestling pedigree in college, great striking, great cardio. A good cardio. He gets rocked a lot. In all honesty, I didn't realize doing fight tape how much you can rock this guy. Chandler rocked him. Tony Ferguson rocked him. Edson did not. James Vick, I feel like he rocked him. I know Michael Johnson did. Dustin Poirier did and finished it. Eddie Alvarez did and finished it. So yeah, he gets rocked in like 75% of his fight. So it's not as if he's invincible. You can knock this dude out. I still think he's durable. You have to go through hell and back to put him away, but it is doable. His issue is that with that fight style, he has high volume, but he does get hit quite a bit. And he has no ground game. I understand that's all he's training right now. But after watching that Khabib fight, I mean, Khabib decided how he was going to finish him on the ground. Justin has really, really, really good takedown defense. And he has to have it because he has nothing off his back. If you take Justin Gaethje down, you don't have to worry about getting tapped out. Like it's concerning how bad he is off his back. It's just a matter if you're able to keep him down there. Charles Oliveira on the other side, he has pretty good striking. It's improving each and every time. It's getting better and better, but he too gets rocked a shit ton. He has great jiu-jitsu. His wrestling's okay. It's pretty good. I would give the slight wrestling edge to Justin. I'll give the striking edge to Justin. Jiu-jitsu, unequivocally Charles. Charles is the best. He has the most submission wins in UFC history. Justin has no submission game. So that's a little bit of a concern. But I don't like that Chucky O gets rocked. Like he keeps doing a rope-a-dope, kind of like a Kennedy Njoku, where you keep rocking him, you blow your load, and then he finishes you. He did that against Chandler. Chandler whooped his ass, and then he tapped him out. Dustin Poirier whooped his ass, and then he tapped him out. Tony Ferguson, he just he destroyed Tony. Kevin Lee was whooping his ass, and then he tapped him out. Like he does this a lot. He's on a huge fight winning streak. It's like 12 fights or something crazy like that. And everyone talks about when you used to be able to break him. Yeah, you used to be able to, but I'm looking at it here. A lot of those fights were at 145. The Pettis fight was at 145. Lamas 145. Holloway 145. Frankie Yeager 145. Cub Swanson 145. Donald was at lightweight. Jim Miller was lightweight. So he was at lightweight when he was a super young kid, went up to 45, kept getting finished, and went back up to 155 and has not lost since Paul Felder. So all in all, when he came in, he was a 20-year-old kid with just jiu-jitsu. Now he's a phenomenal striker. He has heart. His durability is getting there. He gets rocked, but he's not giving up. And his jiu-jitsu is top-notch. So I do think Charles wins the fight. However, if Gaethje cracks him, he hits a lot harder. Like some of those fights against DP, some refs would have stepped in. Against Chandler, some refs would have stepped in. And Gaethje hits just as hard, if not harder, than both. So he may not be able to give the opportunity to come back. So at that juncture, I think Charles wins. But Gaethje at plus 150, basically, I got to take it. So the pick is Charles. I think he wins. But my money, I will have money on just Gaethje. And honestly, I'm hoping that we have two new champions and I come out of here scotch-free with some money. And that's UFC 274. Again, give this video a like, give a follow over on Twitter, Instagram. Links are in the description. This is going to be one hell of a card, one fun card, and hopefully one profitable card. Let's get it.